Modern consoles are quite impressive. In fact, the only thing I would fix on the Xbox One X hardware-wise is the processor so I could get 60 FPS more consistently throughout more games. Some people are playing 4K games at 120 FPS on 120Hz monitors on PC, and I'm not unaware of that. I don't know why anyone thinks that a console player is unaware of that. Maybe some are, but not this one. I prefer to play on my Xbox compared to my gaming PC, so go ahead and roast me in the comment section below, talk about frame rate, performance, game library, talk about the fact that I can't play God of War, all of that good stuff. Because the most valuable way you can spend your time is telling me stuff I already know. But console gaming's come a long way. I mean, you think about the 360, the Xbox One, and the Xbox One X, there's some giant leaps in performance and quality throughout these generations of gaming. Like it or not, consoles are more comparable to PCs now more than ever. Once the next generation of consoles comes out and actually has some decent processors and we can get to 60 FPS consistently, then there's not a lot of things to complain about in my opinion. Because then we're going to be getting into you can't play an ultra-wide 120 frames per second. I'm sure the goalpost will move, but in my opinion, dynamic 4K, native 4K, 60 FPS is kind of the future of gaming. Console gaming, that is. I'm sure that PC players will be playing games at 8K 300 FPS before we know it. But until then, I'm actually quite content with a lot of my games running at dynamic 4K, just under 4K, 60 FPS. As long as it's holding a consistent frame rate and it's above 1080p, then my Xbox One X is doing its job. One of the things that excited me on my original Xbox One was games adding in FOV sliders. Games like Titanfall 2, Doom, and Battlefield 1. Cramped FOVs feel awful to me now. One of my least favorite parts of going back to old games is that they have like 50 FOV or 55 FOV, whereas I prefer my games to be more around at the very least 65, maybe 60, but 65 FOV upwards through 75, 80 FOV. This might not be a big deal to you, that's fair. But in my opinion, there's no reason that our console games can't have FOV sliders because our console games already have FOV sliders, but not all of them. Now recently, MCC just got announced for PC, actually just today, and I'll be talking more about Halo Reach when it comes to the MCC because I'm incredibly excited. But I read that the MCC on PC will have an FOV slider. Why doesn't the MCC have an FOV slider on console? Are you scared that console players won't know what to do with it? If you're gonna tell me that games like Battlefield 5 and Titanfall 2 are able to have FOV sliders, but games like Halo 3 can't? I'm just kind of wondering what you're trying to get at, what you're trying to pull. What is the point of that? It can't be that hard to implement. I'm not a developer, maybe it's incredibly hard, maybe it's the hardest thing in the world, but I'm just imagining that it's not. And seeing how you can mod Fallout 4 on console to have an FOV slider, and people were modding COD 4 on the Xbox 360 to get an FOV slider, and seeing how apparently those game engines and those games are capable of having FOV sliders, like for instance on PC, you can crank the FOV up on Black Ops 3, meaning that Black Ops 3's engine and the way it runs and everything, it's capable of sliding its FOV. But why can't I do that on console? Like every COD game can, and apparently now so can the Halo games when they come to PC, but why couldn't they just do that on Xbox or PlayStation or wherever you play a console game? Why can't they just have FOV sliders? If you are designing an FPS game, why wouldn't you put in an FOV slider? And if you were going to put in an FOV slider, why do you only do it on PC? We already know it's possible with games that are pretty graphically demanding like Battlefield 1 and 5. I mean, hell, Battlefield 5 on the original Xbox One, you can still change the FOV. The entire Halo series runs at 4K HDR 60 frames per second on the Xbox One X. And you're going to tell me that it just can't manage an FOV slider. 4K, HDR, 60 frames, that's fine. Changing the FOV, that would fuck the entire system up. Just allow me to change it by 10, 20%. Let's say it's a console limitation, because we're gonna pretend that it is, because it isn't. Okay, well then don't give me a full FOV slider, give me half the FOV slider that PC players get. To me, this is an incredibly important quality of life feature. Some games look really bad and they play really bad with too high of an FOV. I wouldn't crank all of my FOVs up to 150, but the thing is, A lot of games look a lot worse with things under 65 FOV, and I even would prefer every game to be at 75 FOV if it's an FPS game. But Call of Duty, Rainbow Six Siege, Halo, where are their FOV sliders on console? As if the consoles couldn't run them. I feel like we need to complain about this more so that it becomes a standard, because even though FOV isn't as important as consistent frame rates in competitive shooters, or tight resolutions that allow you to see enemies, but whether you want to shrink your FOV for whatever reason or extend it for whatever reason, there's no reason to not do it. There's no reason to not add it as far as I'm concerned. The consoles have been proven to handle it. Again, people are modding 360s to do it. So at the very least, PS4 Pro and Xbox One X enhanced games should have FOV sliders activated. If they're scared of someone on the original Xbox tanking their frame rate because they put their FOV all the way up, then maybe just don't give them a full slider or take it away from the original consoles, because I know they're a bit weaker if that's what you're really concerned about. FOV is such a nice thing to be able to change, and it's just so weird to see it not able to be changed, especially in games where the PC version allows it but the console version does it, when the console version would be more than capable of it. So maybe if you feel the same way, we need to let developers know that that's what we want from our games. If you're like me and you play on console and you'd like to see those FOV sliders in your console shooters, then maybe we need to be a little bit more vocal about it. You need to be a little bit more public about it. And if you don't feel the same way, let me know why down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and try to avoid any just buy a PC comments. It's so useless to fucking tell people to just buy a PC. And if you don't realize why, then, well, there's no reasoning with you anyway. See you when I see you guys. Goodbye.